Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Barrens Chat podcast. I'm Sod, and with me tonight is my co-host Guk. This is a podcast about World of Warcraft by two guys who play it. Guk, here we go. Phase 2 drops today, if you're listening to this, and the PvP system's out. You ready to be getting ganked?
No, dude, I'm ready to do the ganking. Unless it's a rogue that finds me, I'm pretty confident that I'll be set. Even as a warrior, I've been having a good time getting ready for Phase 2's launch, just clearing house with all the alliance that I see. And I want to thank everyone who's been rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcast. I know the people who don't give us 5 stars, 100% they're the alliance people that I've been ganking, so I'm pretty happy about that. I am confident that when Phase 2 starts, we're going to see a meta of gatekeeping, essentially, because the only way that you're going to get honor in Phase 2 is through honor kills out in the open world. And you're not going to really want to go and find levelers unless you're a scumbag and you go to these low-level zones. The real kind of bulk of the PvP I'm expecting to be groups outside of instances waiting to just gatekeep and farm as many kills as they can. So this could be you're waiting it behind the door to Undead Strat. You're waiting on the way into Blackrock Mountain. And we're going to see a lot of just chaos outside these max level instances. More or less because we've already seen it through Phase 1. And now that there is an incentive to do it, it's going to ramp up for Phase 2. So I'm expecting to see a lot of just nonsense gatekeeping. For me, personally, I plan on doing mostly open world ganks. I'm trying to catch single people en route between whatever they're doing. I want to find them, mount it up, charge, get my opener out. And that's how I plan on getting my honor. I don't want to put a big target on my back by being one of these persistent gatekeepers who end up getting camped just incessantly when they do finally die. So I'm going to try to see if I can work the middle with that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Like, it's weird to me that, like, Hillsbrad and STV seem to be, like, the big PvP spots, especially because, like, you need to kill somebody within your level range to get honor, right? Like, they have to be within, like, green amount of levels to you. So I don't know what that would be at 60, but raid nights, there's definitely going to be those crews camping Molten Core all, like, pretty much every single night, as guilds will be going there. So you'll see a lot of action there. That'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, the raids are going to get camped. Oni's going to get camped. I think the world bosses, that's the other big part of Phase 2. They're obviously going to be camped. The fact that they have such a high amount of time between spawns means that even within the Horde or within the Alliance, there's going to be conflict to establish control over those world bosses. So all of these places are going to be crazy hot with PvP.
Yeah, the brawls are going to be awesome. The world boss fights will probably be some of the best ones. It's just going to be, a couple Horde guilds and a couple Alliance guilds all fighting each other over who's going to get it. I think that'll be really cool to see. And, but I'm going to bounce around on the streams and see who I can see fighting over those world bosses.
Yeah, and I mean, people fighting over the world bosses is going to be a very serious thing, especially if you've taken the time to look at the purples that drop out of these guys. Azure Ghost has some of the best healing and casting gear. You've got the Puissant Cape, which is great for melee DPS, but that's kind of like the only thing there. When you look at all of the caster stuff, there's the Arcane Legs, the Snowblind boots, which are great for either healing or I believe Shadow Priests tend to take it, but I think this is going to be a healer item. The big healer item. This thing blows my mind. The Crystal Adorned Crown that gives you 92 healing spell power. It's crazy. It's crazy. So there's just going to be such a high demand for holding control over Azure Ghosts for large caster groups. And then when you look at Kazakh, or Kazakh, however you want to pronounce it, it's kind of the same thing. There's some really crazy Warlock gear. There's some frost resistance. Oh no, Azure Ghost has the frost resistant belt, I believe, the unmelting ice girdle. So that's going to be really important for Nax later on. So I mean, don't worry about it. You'll have time to get it. But still, like, there's just such a high incentive to get these guys because the gear is insane.
Yeah, it's just gonna be outrageous, especially on those big servers like Herod and Fairlena, like where especially where like a lot of the big guilds and streamers are playing, like that they're gonna have a ton of action there.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see the big streamers, the big players on Fairlena actually trying to do world bosses off stream because of the sheer amount of chaos that them publicly displaying where they are, that their guild is going to do it. That's going to bring a lot of unwanted attention. So I wouldn't be surprised to see if they shut the streams off for the world bosses. If not, hey, it's going to be a ton of fun because there's going to, especially if it's Asmongold, someone who's pulled pretty consistently around like 40 to 50K viewers throughout Classic. I'm not a super loyal viewer, but every time I check it out, there's a ton of people in there. And just the idea that you are broadcasting, hey guys, not only am I a streamer that wants to get stream sniped, I am going to one of the most vital world bosses that you might need and just like showing you guys our schedule, showing you that we're doing it. I don't expect to see it on stream. If it does show up on stream, I'm definitely going to watch.
Yeah, I actually, so I'm not a loyal Asmongold viewer, but I almost always watch the YouTube clips where he's like saying pertinent information about Warcraft because I think his opinion on the game is actually like really good and like I know his stream is kind of memey, but he's really smart, so I actually do watch the clips.
Yeah. The problem I have with the clips is I'll find myself watching. I'll be watching Asmongold watch a video, and then I'm like, what am I doing, right? And you scroll down and you look at which YouTube channel posted it, and it's not Asmongold's channel. So some other guy was watching Asmongold, watched some other guy's video, and then he made a video, and now I'm watching it. So how many layers of watching stuff am I beyond? I've gotten better at this. I will click the source video and just watch the source video just because I don't like this whole click recycling thing. But I mean, that's besides the point. One of the big things about phase two, obviously the world bosses are going to be crazy, but we just talked about those. I'm looking forward to the PvP items that we're going to have access to. So namely rank 2, everyone should at least be trying to get rank 2. Rank 2 will allow you to get your team's insignia trinket, and this trinket is very important for getting you out of CC, especially if you're going to be actively engaging in world PvP. You need to not just do it lightly. You have to go in and get over rank 2, which isn't that hard, but it's something that is, I think, one of the most important parts about this. That trinket is everything for me. But if you look into it, if you look into the rest of the ranks, you'll see there's a rare necklace at rank 4 that you'll have access to, rare bracers at rank 5. But the big things that I think most people who are trying to itemize will be looking at ranks 7 and 8. So 7 and 8 unlocks your superior quality boots, gloves, rank 7, and then the chest and the legs at rank 8. Me personally, since I've already bought my Devil Source set, I'm not too worried about rushing to rank 7 and 8, but I plan on getting there. And once I do, I think those items will even replace the Devil Source set that I have. So it's an important item to go for. I'm sure it is for warriors. I'm not sure how it works out for other classes, but the fact that you're getting these rewards for participating in the new system, it's going to be fun. I mean, it's something that we've been waiting for. Everyone has been, at least on a PvP server, everyone's been engaging in world PvP for really no reason, just for the lulz. Like, if you're ganking someone who's doing a chicken escort quest, you're not getting anything out of that besides the pure satisfaction that you're ruining someone else's day. So now we're going to get honor points. We're going to rank up. You're going to get gear for whatever you want. And that's really what it's all about, right? WoW is about finding the systems that you enjoy and then participating in those systems so that you can get the gear that you want. And that's going to be a big part of phase 2 starting today.
All right, so I've been playing an excessive amount of retail this weekend specifically. The anniversary events up. I did the LFR, like the time walking LFR, where you go through like an entire expansion's content for the most part, and I don't know, the raids were kind of just whatever. I was kind of hoping to get gear on one of my under gear characters. I didn't get lucky, but immediately upon completion, I turned it in. I got the battle pet and I got the Deathwing mount, which is pretty cool. I actually didn't even expect to get that because typically I don't do like those seasonal events or whatever. And then I saw somebody on Twitter post that they got a ton of experience in the Alterac Valley Korak's Revenge, and I was like, man, what is that? So I went into one, and then I left. I got bored pretty early, and then I woke up Saturday morning, and I was like, yeah, you know what? Let me give this a shot. And I went from 116 to 120 on my Paladin in under 2 hours. So I was like, whoa, man, that was really fast. So I actually leveled up now four characters, like from all slightly over 110 to 120 in just over this weekend, like just playing off and on. Like I was even playing other games. I took my kids to sports and stuff like that. So it wasn't like straight playing. I did play a lot, but it wasn't like degenerate neckbeard like amounts of playing, which was cool. And so I got a lot of my power leveling done that I wanted to get done, and I have a couple more guys to level. And I think as long as that AV's up, that's probably how I'll do it.
Yeah, it seems that if you have a character in the one teens, anywhere above 110, and you've been banking rested XP, if you have a full rested XP bar in the mid 110s, it seems like you get. What was it? You had your Titan panel running. Didn't you have over 2 million XP per hour?
Yeah, so when I won two AVs in a row, it's not a guaranteed win. I averaged over 2,000 XP per hour. Now, you sit in the queue for roughly like 15 minutes, so I was proactive while I was in the queue. I was like questing, just trying to keep myself going and gathering ore and herbs and all that. And then I get in there, and like every so often, like for whatever, I don't even know why, but like I just see like 21,000 XP, like just out of nowhere, and that goes on throughout the whole thing. And when we'd cap a bunker, I'd see like 45,000. If I turned a quest in inside AV, I'd get over 100,000. And then when I won, I got like almost an entire level. But that was with heirlooms, with rest. Like I had my XP bonus capped out. So, things like that. But it's still really quick. I did a couple characters without heirlooms, and that was really good. The only negative side effect to leveling like that is I was unlocking my footholds on my rogue who was in heirloom gear, and I hadn't gotten any new gear. And geez, you think you get weaker when you ding 116? Try dinging 116 when you're still in greens from Legion. It is not pleasant. I was dying to like solo quest mobs, so be aware of that. And I'm definitely gonna have to get my guys some benthic gear when they all get to 120. Shouldn't be a problem. I have a lot of mana pearls stacked up.
Can you send mana pearls between characters? Because that's something that I'm struggling with. My Death Knight, I've been playing Frost Death Knight, and I actually really enjoyed it. Since you have been getting back into retail, I've decided that I wanted to kind of get a couple characters warmed up. And honestly, I've been really kind of actually enjoying DPS. So doing Frost DK was pretty good. It kind of synergized with my DPS mindset that I've been building. And it's been really fun. So I'm kind of excited to get back into retail for 8.3. But you said that with the Legion Greens, I remember when we started BFA at 110, we were still pretty strong. And then like there was a decrease in power and then an increase. Did that happen at all? Or did it just feel like you were not doing anything in those Legion Greens?
No. So like in Alterac Valley, everybody's scaled to 60, so everybody's pretty much at the same level, unless you're a lower level and you don't have the talents. So that then I would imagine that you're weaker. But outside of Alterac Valley, like doing my quests, unlocking my footholds, I felt incredibly weak. And now that's obviously because my item level was like 200, whereas like a freshly dinged 120 is probably going to be pretty close to 300, right? So, I was dealing with being way under geared on top of my legendaries no longer working, and my weapons being out of date. You do get a weapon if you do the quest to kill Korak, and I had that, but that only does so much. So it was good, but you got to blow the cooldowns, and you can use your mana pearls to buy benthic pieces, and then send the benthic pieces are account bound, so you can send them to your alts.
Okay, so yeah, my issue was I wanted to try to get pearls to my DK to level up one of their already possessed benthic pieces. I got those best in slot hands with a socket even, so I got really lucky. Um, but yeah, if you can only send the tokens, I'm still gonna have to go back into Nazjatar and farm out those mana pearls. And that's that on top of grinding out the same essences that I already got for my monk a while ago is the one major barrier for me to really dive back into retail. If I could move mana pearls the same way that we can move war resources, and if I could have, I mean, they should implement a sharing patch for the essences, but it won't happen. Uh, but yeah, those are the two really big barriers right now for me getting full back into retail because I don't want to do it. For one of the best essences, I have to go back into the Eternal Palace and get these aqueous reliquaries. And I mean, it's for a really good essence, but I don't want to have to do it considering I have all these great rank 3 essences on my monk. But I mean, this is kind of end game stuff. For what you're getting into, just getting your tunes up to level 120 is the best way that you're preparing for Shadowlands.
Yeah, so I am doing a little bit of end game stuff. Like I did a plus 10 on two characters this week. I did one on my warlock with you, and I did one. Well, I did two on my warlock actually, and I did one on my shaman, which I paid for a boost because there was no way that my shaman was doing it, and I was pleasantly surprised because before I stopped playing, the price of a boost would be like an entire token, and the WoW token price has gone up to like 180,000 gold in North America, and the boost only cost me 90,000 gold, and that was like nothing. So I was like, all right, I'll cough that up, and I got a plus 10 done on my shaman, which was nice, and then I even did a plus 11 on my warlock with you, and we timed it. And the cool thing about that was my warlock was raiding in Nazjatar, so it was like my warlock is in decent gear, does decent numbers. I'm not very good at trash in Mythic Plus, but on the bosses I do like pretty effective damage. And your Death Knight is pretty undergeared, mid to low 400 item level. I think probably fair to say.
I was low 400 item level, with all of my armor more or less being 400 and my weapons being 375 at the time.
Yeah, and we had another guy who was a guy that I used to do keys with who was on a undergeared hunter alt, and he was probably like 412 ish, give or take. And we had a tank who was okay, and we had a healer that was pretty good. And we timed the key with. I mean, there was only like 3 seconds to spare, but it was a plus 11 with 200 geared DPS. So the keys aren't too bad to run. Granted, it was kind of an easy key. It was Temple of Sethralis, but it's definitely good if you want to gear up your characters and get ready for Nyalotha and Nazoth. Get your characters in there, do the plus 10s, get that 440 gear, and I had a great time running the keys too. So I'm really looking forward to next week and seeing what that brings. I'm still maintaining that my warlock is full rank 3 essence for his best in slot, which is nice, and my shaman, who I did farm a couple essences on. I did not know that I have to farm essences for both healing and DPS specs, which is really turning me off from playing my shaman because I'm totally ineffective now at one of my specs and undergeared, which just makes it depressing. But it is what it is. I gotta farm the essences if I want to play it, so I might just stick to my warlock. And I did have a ton of fun on that this week. So, and I joined like some random guild and got lucky with the plus 10 on that, and they seemed pretty cool, and the raid times are decent. So maybe I'll do that.
Yeah, I kind of like the way that you're going about this. You've got a group of characters that you have actually more or less just ready for Shadowlands because you've been doing all those great AV runs to get up to 120. But then you've also been running some 10s to get a couple tunes. Like, how many are you trying to get ready for 8.3? Just the Lock and the Shaman?
Yeah, so ideally, I'd like to have two. I was doing my lock just because it's the best geared one, and I was doing my shaman just because I wanted to try healing. and I might just stick with my luck. I'm still going to continue to do the emissaries and whatnot on the shaman. I want to get exalted with Rust Bolt so I can, at the very least, unlock the allied races. So I'm doing that on my warlock as well, and yeah, I'm just kind of enjoying the patch. Like it's mostly just going through the motions and then doing keys when I get the opportunity to. I'm not like going too hard with it, but I did have a lot of fun, and I was like, I unlocked my third essence on my warlock, the third slot, and the DPS boost was huge. So that was like a lot of fun to see, and it like made me enjoy playing a little more.
Yeah, I think the fun in retail is still there. You just have to know where to find it. I think despite the GCD changes that they made in BFA, comparing your rotation, how you can maximize your DPS, how you can be more creative in your itemization, even though it's very annoying to get these essences when you've already gotten them on another character, it adds a layer of customization that if you've been playing Classic more or less exclusively, it's a nice change. I like having a more complicated rotation with more options, greater resource management, greater customization. All of those things are fun. So I totally agree. Like we're both on board with not being a fan of having to regrind essences, but enjoying the retail gameplay enough to kind of just go, like you said, go through these motions, get the essences, get what's necessary, and continue playing just to get ready for this next raid. It does feel like very much like a transition period right now. We're waiting for 8.3 to drop. We know it's not going to drop until after the new year. So it's kind of like a retail waiting room, but it is a fun change of pace. Uh, I want to take this to transition now into Shadowlands, talking about the GCD change that happened in BFA. That was something that when it happened, almost everyone complained about. It doesn't feel good to have to press your cooldown, wait, press the next cooldown, wait, and then go into your rotation if that's how your opener goes. So the GCD changes that we got in BFA, unfortunately, it seems like there won't be any reversions or changes to the GCD happening upon release of Shadowlands. So I kind of want to go into some of the basic pros and cons. I know our last episode we really did a somewhat of a deep dive into Shadowlands. It was kind of like a BlizzCon breakdown. But here I've got some pros and some cons. My four big pros for Shadowlands, it's going to be the class unpruning. So specifically, they said we're going to see some auras, totems, poisons, and curses coming back. So shamans, locks, you guys are going to have some more stuff to do. The AP weekly cap. So as opposed to the current system where you just grind AP until you can't grind anymore, there will be a weekly cap at the amount of anima points that you can collect. That is a huge, huge pro. And then these last two are kind of very much interrelated, as less RNG in your itemization. Crafted pieces can now have specific secondaries based on gems that you use during the crafting process. So your crafted gear is no longer pure RNG. And your weekly chest is going to have significantly less RNG in the fact that you will be able to select either from a pool of items or from a pool of instances that you would like to get your loot from. So there is so much more player agency and less RNG in the itemization. If we can kind of lump in the disappearance of Titan Forging with the ending of corruption after 8.3, I think we have a really good itemization system. But that doesn't take away from the cons that I have, especially when we're talking about itemization. As a raider, you have to consider your tier sets, right? There's something so fun about running a raid tier and completing your tier set, combining your tier set with the last tier if you can get like a 2 and 4 combination. I remember that was a ton of fun in Legion. We didn't get to do it in BFA, and unfortunately, it doesn't look like we're going to be able to do that in Shadowlands either. That coupled with no expected changes to GCD, I think those two cons are going to be really influential in how Shadowlands is received once people get to the end game of Shadowlands. If the gameplay is still kind of like BFA, where we're doing this waiting period between our casts, and we're not getting tier sets from our raids, I don't know how the high-end people or just people who like endgame, I don't know how they're going to take that.
So another con I would have too is the loot system. Like they haven't made an announcement on whether or not Master Loot's coming back in, and I think at the very least, you know how they had it in Legion with if you have 80% guild group or more, Master Loot's the way to go, and I think that would be better for the community, specifically the competitive community. I think it's also good if you're trying to run a guild, right? You know, I'm not one of those people that disenchants like loot instead of giving it to trials, but it's also like way better if you take trials into a raid, if you can dictate where the gear goes, right? Like if nobody in your raid needs it, then you give it to a trial, whether you're going to keep that trial or not. I think that's a better way to handle loot as opposed to just having straight personal loot.
Yeah, I mean, one of the problems with Classic, too, is the idea that you're going to invite someone new to your raid, and when it's a 40-man raid, it's easy for people to just kind of blend in. But a new person, if they get a piece of loot, there's nothing really stopping them from leaving the guild and G quitting if they don't really want to stick around, right? And that sucks if they got a good piece of loot. So I remember also one of the aspects of Legion Master Loot, you could kind of count the number of raiders and expect the amount of items to drop with Master Loot. And you could game the system to like maximize the number of drops by either doing personal loot or master loot. And I don't remember exactly how the system went, but again, I mean that's just another element of player agency. Why not let players decide how the loot gets distributed when it's a community thing to raid? Like the raid itself is not an individual task; it is a group task. So the loot should be distributed in a group-minded way. So I'm interested to see if they do bring back Master Looter. That's a really good point. They are trying to give player agency, and that's one of the things that Ian was talking about. But uh, if they don't add those things, it's like they're only going so far. They could go further.
Yeah, it's like so many of their systems that they implemented is like stuff that you see coming straight out of general discussion. It's like the players who like barely raid that have like four LFR boss kills on their armory, and they're just like, "Oh, Master Loot's bad. I had a bad experience with it back in Burning Crusade." It's like, I mean, this isn't Burning Crusade anymore, right? It's a new game, and the community tends to police itself. I think the community policed itself a lot back then too, and I'd like to see them at least give the game back to the community in that sense.
Yeah, that's a really good way to talk about giving the game back to the community. 100%. They're giving the game back to the player in some ways, like with the crafted gear and with your weekly chest, but give us more. Give us more of our game back.
Yeah, and with BFA too, they with the changes to the guild interface, like I guess they made I mean we haven't really run a guild this whole expansion, but they made the guild customization like more bland and more rundown, so it's like not as effective as it used to. Like you used to be able to customize the ranks a little more, their permissions and whatnot, and they kind of took that away with this expansion too.
Yeah, well, there are some really good things to look forward to in Shadowlands that, I mean, everyone is always looking forward to. No one, I think it's so clear to see that the art team for Blizzard has gotten better and better and better every expansion. I mean, say what you will about BFA, but the zones look great. The art team did a fantastic job with what they were given. And I can say the same thing about the screenshots that we've gotten for the new Shadowlands zones. They look amazing. So the art team is definitely putting like some serious work into this game, and I'm excited to see the zones.
Yeah, it's absolutely unbelievable, and I like it. It's like an award-winning art team to a point where like I'd love to see a Warcraft like animated series, like even if it's like way more cartoony because it would cost so much to do the CGI with the way they do the cinematics or like shoot it any other way. Like just see like a cartoony like World of Warcraft how they make the art look. I would love to see something like that. That'd be so cool, but the art team is unreal, and like they deserve all the praise that they get every expansion. It's always one of the high points of every new zone. Like Nazjatar, I'm sure Nyalotha will be the same way, and it'll be the exact same with Shadowlands as well.
Yeah, I mean, we got to see a little bit of what they're going to bring in 8.3. They're going to revitalize the Mist of Pandaria zone. They're going to revitalize some other areas around the world based on how N'Zoth is kind of corrupting it and whatnot. So I'm excited to see that. But yeah, I mean, no one ever says that the art team isn't doing enough. The art team always does a crazy cool job. I think in our last episode we talked a little bit about the covenants because those are kind of zone specific. Each zone will have a specific covenant that you will kind of learn about and build reputation with as you level through their zone. I love that the new expansion Shadowlands is going to have a more linear style of leveling. I think narratively you can build a lot more of the story and the lore when you kind of have everyone go through the same kind of content together, because you control the flow of the story. If you, like in BFA, you could go to any of the three zones on your starting island, and the zones themselves kind of had a self-contained story, and they didn't interconnect really until you got to the end, and then it was basically just a part of the first raid, and then after that it didn't really matter about the zone's lore. So I'm excited to see some semblance of unity in player leveling, which will hopefully let them narratively do a lot more. If that makes any sense. I feel like they can kind of take you from one point at the beginning through this zone, then the next, and the next, and the next, and each one builds on the story up until ultimately the raid or however they decide to do it. I'm excited for that change. I think that'll be decent. I don't think anyone will complain like, oh, boo hoo, everyone's in the same zone and blah blah blah. There's still going to be sharding. It's not going to be cramped. It's retail. It's going to be quick and effective no matter how you do it. But the fact that they've made it linear, I'm hoping for a better story.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that'll be really cool to see. I'm also excited to have like a single sanctuary city too, right? Like where both factions are going to be. I know that like, all the servers have like a ridiculously unbalanced faction population, but when I do go to level my alliance characters, I'm very pumped to at least have an idea where I'm going, as opposed to when I went to Borealis and I had no clue what was going on.
Yeah, that's very true. It feels like Oribos, the Eternal City in Shadowlands, will be kind of like the Dalaran hub in Legion. It's cross faction, but there are faction specific kind of sides with the portal rooms that only your faction will have access to, or however they end up doing it. I'm sure it'll be very similar to Dalaran. But yeah, I mean that's a really good point. The fact that this whole system will be somewhat more uniform means that if you do decide to transfer factions or you want to roll an alliance race excuse me, if you want to roll an allied race for the other faction, doing it won't immediately make you feel lost and confused. I know when I swapped my Demon Hunter over to Alliance, I didn't know how to get through Borealis. I didn't know where anything was, and honestly, it was a little off-putting. And it's something that's so simple as what's the layout of the hub city, and that's something that you learn passively just by playing the game. But since I hadn't played through Borealis, I had no idea.
Yeah, I think that goes for both factions too, because when I joined an alliance guild, they were like, "Oh, you'll get used to it. Borealis is so much easier to navigate than Zuldazar," and I'm just like, "No, it's not. I don't think it is at all. I think Borealis is a complete maze."
I don't. I the one. I obviously I'm not very qualified to criticize Borealis because I didn't spend that much time there, but it seems like everything is in a different house and you have to know like which house or which dock to go to find these things. I don't know. I just was off put by it, but mostly because I hadn't done it yet.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna do it again. I've done everything I needed to do to unlock the allied races, and that's really all I play alliance for.
Yeah. So I think we've in our last episode we talked about the major aspects coming in Shadowlands. We've kind of broken down some of the specific pros and cons that we've found. I really think that if anyone's trying to get ready for Shadowlands, they should follow the kind of plan that you've been doing. If you have characters that you don't really care about rating 8.3 with, but you still want to have a bunch of 120s ready for the launch of Shadowlands, you should get on and do AVs to level up. If you are interested in 8.3, like we said, plus 10s aren't that bad, and they're still kind of fun. It's a fun change of pace with similar gameplay to Classic. So yeah, now is a good time to be engaged in both. If you're going to be going hard into Classic, remember that there is an honor decay, so some people may feel like they have to go one or the other. I wouldn't feel that way. I would say you can get enough honor in a week It's the entire week, so you don't have to like really commit all of your time to it. You have the whole week to get as many HKs as you can. Some people will surely only do that, but I'm confident that me playing some retail and also playing classic, I'll be getting as much honor as I want, and I'll be satisfied.
Yeah, and I wouldn't worry about Honor Decay too much, like unless you're a hardcore PvP player, until probably BGs come out in Phase 3. Like, there's going to be so many times where you're just off and on, and it's going to be such a pain in the ass trying to find people to, to kill and to farm. And, like, it's going to be fun early, but there is going to be a huge drop off in the player base after the initial push of the phase, like anytime. And just farm your honor at that point, or just wait for Phase 3 and grind AV like every other player that isn't a hardcore player.
All right, that's all I have. Any closing thoughts?
No, we did have some technical difficulties when we were recording this, so bear with us. If you notice anything, we're sorry.
Yeah, there may be some abrupt cuts and things like that, but I mean, you know how it is. We're an amateur podcast. We're doing this for fun.
And thank you for listening, and hope to keep bringing good content.
Yeah. Thanks again for listening. If you guys have time, we always appreciate you rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcast. If you have the Podbean app, throw us a follow, throw us a comment. If you use Twitter, you can tweet us at Barrens Chat Pod. We'll respond to all that stuff, and we'll catch you guys next week.